How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to my channel and to my TV room, my movie room, where I don't film that often because usually there's way too much light coming into all the windows and nothing but a big glare between me and you. But today's a pretty good day to come up here, and I've done a little bit of redecorating. You can see most of my box sets that I put behind me on this shelf, and I think they look pretty good there. So let me know what you think. So I want to talk about some of the films that I've been watching lately, and also things that I've picked up recently, and talk about a couple of books as well. So let's get into it. Starting off with the big guns here, the epic. I finally got around to watching all the way through Cleopatra, 1963, the very famous movie that was so expensive for its time that I think it actually bankrupt 20th Century Fox. Liz Taylor got $1 million to make the film, which should the highest paid actress at the time for many years. And I had seen a small part of this on cable television a long, long time ago. I remember seeing the famous procession of Cleopatra into the city of Rome, which was so spectacular. It probably cost half the budget just to do that. I don't know, but so I picked this up used a while ago, and I thought, okay, I've got a long, long night to kill, so let's watch it. And I thought I was going to be bored out of my skull. I loved it. I had a great time watching this. Nobody's more surprised than me. The story of the Roman military intrigue and all that I let that kind of wash over me, all those details. But just to watch the sets, the beautiful cinematography, the music, the outfits that Liz Taylor was wearing. I mean, her cleavage was all over the screen in CinemaScope and Technicolor, and who can argue with that? So top acting honors definitely go to Richard Burton, and he had great chemistry with Liz Taylor, who also did a very good job. She's always a better actress than people gave her credit for. I could just imagine Eddie Fisher sitting on the sidelines watching all this and thinking, this is not going to end well. And it didn't. Also, very good performances by Rex Harrison and Roddy McDowall. Cleopatra, all right. I also picked up a copy of Logan's Run from 1976, one of my favorite science fiction movies. When I did my Century of Film Favorites for the decade of the 1970s, I wanted to show the copy that I thought I had of this, and I couldn't find it anywhere. So I must have been delusional thinking I actually owned Logan's Run. So I went out and picked this up just about a week ago at Barnes and Noble, and I'm very glad that I did because I always love this film. All right, Michael York, Jenny Agutter, great, great movie. All right, next up, I got a couple of things from Movies Unlimited. Came just a few days ago, and I watched them both. I picked up this Blu-ray redo of The Old Dark House from 1932, James Whale horror comedy classic starring Boris Karloff, Charles Lawton, Gloria Stewart, Raymond Massey. Just a great, great film. Melvin Douglas is in it. Just a great, great film. That it is not just a horror film. Well, really, it's much more of just a freaky character study. Mainly of the two people that living in this house. They've got uh, Ernest Thesiger as Horace Fem, the owner of this house that all these people who are stranded in a storm have to sort of break into and stay for the night. They have no choice. And his insane sister, played by an actress named Eva Moore, somebody that I have never seen in anything else. I need to look her up and find out more about her because she's a trip. I mean, a real trip. Boris Karloff is top billed in this film. He's really not the star, but it certainly is good to see him. Right after he did Frankenstein, and was becoming a very famous star. Two commentaries on this Blu-ray, which I have not yet watched, but I do want to see this again and get more information about it. Highly recommended. Joe Mayo of Mayo's Movies told me that I should get this and that I wouldn't regret it. And Joe, you were right. Very good film. Very good reproduction. Okay, I also picked up the most recent Woody Allen film, A Rainy Day in New York, which has a group of actors that I don't know anything about. Let's see if I can remember their names here. Timothy Chalamet, I think I'm pronouncing that right. Ellie Fanning, Selena Gomez, I have heard of her, but I've never seen her in anything. Jude Law, of course, I've heard of him. Diego Luna, and Liev Schreiber, that's another name that I know. Very amiable, well written, beautiful to look at film about romance in New York. Kind of a deja vu feeling because Woody Allen sort of, I don't know, there are so many similarities in films like this that he makes that it's kind of a comfort thing when you watch one of his films, and he just kind of takes you into that zone where you know that you already want to go. Pretty good movie. Enjoyed it thoroughly. All right, a couple of things I picked up at Dollar Tree because, as you know, I cannot drag myself out of Dollar Tree. I've picked up this movie called Prince Avalanche. I think it's 2013. It stars Paul Rudd and Emil Hirsch as two totally different kinds of guys who were out working in way out in the woods, painting lines on a highway in a place in Texas where there have been a lot of fires. So everything around them is virtually destroyed, and they just have to sort of learn to get along with each other and like each other and go through a lot of changes. And this is based on a 2011 film that was made in Iceland. It was called Either Way, and it would be interesting to see what that was like. So, anyway, Prince Avalanche. All right. I also picked up this Blu-ray. It's an English film called Vinyl. And when I saw that title, I thought it was going to be about record collectors, but it's not. It supposedly is based on a true happening, something that happened in 2004, where a famous rock musician decided to release some music and pass it off as being made by a new younger group because he was considered too old to be presentable as a rocker. And that's what happens in here. This group of rockers who formerly were very famous, they get together one night and just start playing, and somebody decides to record it and makes it into a song that could actually be a hit. But they decide to hire younger looking people, some of whom are actually musicians, to pose and lip sync their music. And it turns out that the musicians have minds of their own and a lot of strange things. Have a very funny movie, and it says a lot about the state of the music industry. A lot of fun. And finally, back to New York again for more romance. This is a film called The Only Living Boy in New York, which stars people like, let's see. Well, the star of the film is a kid named Callum Turner. I guess he's not a kid, but to me he is. Callum Turner, somebody I'm not familiar with at all. But we also have Kate Beckinsale, Pierce Brosnan, Cynthia Nixon, and Jeff Bridges. Very interesting little movie that is one of those films that you think is taking you in a certain direction, that it goes off and it's something completely different. And I was quite surprised. I was sort of half awake and half asleep during the first maybe one third of it. And then it started to get really interesting. So for a buck, not bad. All right. Also picked up this Silver Screen Icons compilation, 4 films starring Cary Grant, Harry Benson's favorite actor, and it has My Favorite Wife, co-starring Irene Dunn, and that's a film that I don't know if I've seen. I can't remember. It also has Night and Day, The Bachelor and the Bobby Soxer, and Mr. Blandings Builds His Dream House. So I've watched the latter 2 films already. Haven't yet rewatched Night and Day, but great fun. Cary Grant. All right. Now let's talk about some. These are some things I picked up from creepyclassics.com. I picked up this Blu-ray of Monolith Monsters just because I never had a copy of it, and I've never seen it all the way through, but I've seen parts of it on Svengoolie, so wanted to check that out. I also picked up a film that I've never seen and don't know anything about, really, from 1966, Cyborg 2087, starring Michael Rennie, Karen Steele, Harry Carey Jr., let's see, Warren Stevens, Wendell Corey, some Edward Franz, some very well-known genre actors in this, and it's in color, so that'll be kind of hopefully a pleasant surprise. We shall see. And Creepy Classics, I also sent away for the most recent copies of the Monster Bash magazine, number 40 and 41. How's that for artwork, folks? These are great monster magazines, and that completes my collection of the Monster Bash. Now I want to talk about some books that I read. Um, I just finished taking a non-credit class called Comic Book Culture, and it was taught by the same guy who teaches most of the film classes that I've talked about in other videos. And he's a big comic book collector, has been collecting for years. He did the class, of course it was on Zoom. We all have to do it online. He did the class from this room in his house that he calls his comic book cave, and you can see on both sides of him just boxes and boxes of comic books, and it's just he's a fanatic about this sort of thing. So he actually gave everybody in the class these two beautiful copies of what he classifies as comic books, and some people might just call them graphic novels. I don't know that much about these things. I've been out of touch with comic books for a long, long time. But he gave us this Batman: The Killing Joke, which is it features Batman and the Joker. It's very dark, very very serious. It's not the Batman that I grew up with in the 1960s, but just a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful art. And so we talked about that extensively. And then he also gave us this, The Watchmen, which a lot of you may know about, since I know some of you probably collect comic books. The Watchmen. This was written or composed or drawn or written or something. I'm all confused here. Alan Moore wrote this, and he also wrote this as well. Alan Moore and Brian Boland did this. Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons did this. Okay, this is actually a compilation of several different comic books that came out separately, and this is an epic story for comics. It turns out to be very, very dark, and again, it takes you in a place that you were not expecting to go. Absolutely fascinating. It's almost getting me excited about maybe starting to read comic books again, but we shall see. I don't know about that. Okay, now let me show you some of the books that I've picked up lately. This is the book that I'm reading now. This is a fun little mystery novel called The Windsor Knot, and it's written by a woman named S.J. Bennett. Her Majesty the Queen investigates The Windsor Knot. It's all about a murder that takes place at Windsor Castle, and Her Majesty herself starts investigating. So it's just I'm only in the first few chapters, and I'm loving it. It's a nice, fun little movie, and kind of imagining what the Queen might be doing from day to day, and investigating a murder. Okay, I also picked up this book. This was something that surprised me when I saw it in at Barnes and Noble. My favorite actor, Ethan Hawke, my favorite modern actor, I should say, has written a novel. It's called A Bright Day of Darkness. Okay, and Ethan Hawke, actor, director, playwright, does a little bit of everything. Now he's writing novels. It's sort of a romantic mystery, I guess. I don't know. So that will be fun to get into. And finally, I picked up another book, and this will interest my friend Jay Harvey, who is a big fan of the movie Midnight Cowboy. This is a book all about the making of Midnight Cowboy. And this is written by, let's see, who is this from? Glenn Frankel. Shooting Midnight Cowboy. Art, sex, loneliness, liberation, and the making of a dark classic. Okay? Interesting. I'm really looking forward to getting into this. Now, I picked this up just basically as an impulse buy, and it made me want to come home and rewatch Midnight Cowboy, which I had not seen in quite a long time. I like this film very much, and it's every bit as moving and every bit as effective as it ever was, even though I know everything that's going to happen pretty much. These guys, these two actors, John Voight, Dustin Hoffman, were so incredible in this film. And yeah, very, very happy to see it again. And I guess that's my update for now. And I would welcome any comments that you have to make or any questions. So take care.